attending today. Thank you, Vale, for the introduction. Today, I want to guide you through the topic transition to a circular economy. And with my presentation, I want to cover 5 main topics, which are business models, narrowing, slowing, and closing loops. At the end, I want to talk about circular policies and societies. I want to start by giving you a definition of what circular economy. Well, basically, circular economy is a model of production and consumption where existing materials and products are kept as long as possible. The aim of this model is to maximize the reuse of products and to eliminate waste. And I'm going to show you a visual example. Our system economy or our system economic model that we have currently should learn a little bit about nature, where most of the things are reused and there's no waste. For example, we have here a biological system where a plant can be a food for an animal, and this animal also can be a food for a predator. And after that, every animal can be food for bacteria, and that bacteria will provide nutrients to the food. So in nature, there is no waste. However, our linear system, the system which we use right now, is linear because we take resources from nature, we make products, we use them, and we create waste. And the problem with this is that we design things to use, but we don't design things for reuse. And circularity is trying to help with this. The main goal of circular economy is to prevent that a product don't become a waste in the first place when we take and when we produce something. And we can integrate those products by repairing, reuse, remanufacturing, recycling, or sharing. And also, when a product is no longer able to be reused, circular economy tries to reintegrate this product as a raw material or energy. That way there is no waste. Now I want to show you this interesting data. In 1970, humans used to consume around 25 billion tons of materials every year. Now we consume 100 billion tons of materials. And if we continue like this, by 2050, we're going to reach almost 200 billion of tons. And with this, I want to ask you, how much of the percentage of the things that we consume do you think we reuse at the end? Please, I would like that you participate in the chat. Maybe you have an idea, could be 40%, could be 80%, or could be less. What do you think? Let me see here. Andreas says 3%, 8%, 10%, 25%. Okay. Well, the truth is that nowadays humans and only reuse 8.6% of the things that we consume. And this is creating more than almost 60 billion tons of greenhouse gases, which is very bad for the environment. Now, I want to show you how our future could look like. We have 3 scenarios. The first one is actually where we are right now. We are emitting around 60 billion tons of carbon dioxide every year. And if we continue like this, by 2044, we're going to increase the temperature between 3 and 6 degrees. And then we have the second scenario. And then this scenario is if all the 194 countries that signed the Paris Agreement reach their goal, then maybe we can keep the same consumption rate, and maybe the temperature will increase by 2 or 3 degrees by 2044. And then we have the last scenario where we implement circularity in our economic model. If we implement circularity, then we can increase our temperature less than 2 degrees by 2044. And we can decrease the creation of carbon dioxide by 31 billion tons by 2031. And this will be the starting point where our social economic model can reach 0 emissions. Now, I want to show you this example. Imagine that this dot is a country, right? And this dot is another country. Bigger the dot means that this country needs more resources to satisfy the needs. And smaller the dot means that this country need less resources. And imagine that this circle is a safe area where you have food, where you have water, when everything works well. Now, the blue dot means that a country has a very high human development index, and the red one means that the human development index is very low. In an ideal scenario, our world should look like this. All countries having a very nice equilibrium. Unfortunately, right now our society looks like this. We have different countries with different consumptions and production habits that it's very hard to start determining how much we consume um, if we sum all the countries. For example, we have here Germany. Although Germany has a very high human development, it's very far from the safe area because the resources that they need are very high. For example, we have Costa Rica. Although Costa Rica is very close to the safe area, the human development of Costa Rica is not too high. So we have a lot of variations. And I want to put this information into a timeline. We have this country over short days. And this graph shows the exact day that humans, the exact day in which humans will run out of materials. For example, if the world will be a calendar, we start here in January and ends here in December. If we consume at the same rate like Germany does, we will have only resources for May. If we consume at the same rate that Costa Rica does, we will have resources only till August. And for example, if we consume at the same rate that Uruguay does, we will have resources only to survive till November. So this graphic, it's very interesting because show you how much resources we consume and what's the difference between countries. And now, to avoid this and to help with this, we should implement circular business models, which basically it's convert resources and capabilities into economic value. This is about value creation and has three main elements. The first one is slowing loops, which is basically use less. The second one is slowing, which is related with use longer. And the last one is closing, which is use again. And I'm gonna show you how. The first strategy, narrowing loops, has to do is related to resource efficiency. We are very good doing that. Many automotive or textile companies, they always try to innovate and do more with less. So this strategy is basically do more with less resources. But the problem here is like, if we ask this question, what happened after the product has been used? So we don't have a solution, right? Circularity helps with this. This strategy focuses on create better products. For example, instead of having a plastic bottle, we create a glass bottle. And we take the product perspective instead of the material perspective. And circularity adds to these products durability, which helps to maximize the product as long as possible. Value, when a product has value, means that has a lot of functionality and complexity that can be used again. And product design, which means that we can design something to be repaired or to be reused after it has been used. And I want to show you this interesting fact. There is 100 times more gold in a ton of e-waste than in a ton of gold ore. And this is crazy because if we have a look on the smartphone industry, nowadays, there are more than 8 billion smartphones in the planet, more smartphones than humans, and only 20% of those smartphones are recycled. Also, we have to consider that to make an smartphone, we have to get materials, and the people that work on those industries have low wages. They use child labor, and the conditions of working are very bad. Circularity is trying to change this mindset because nowadays we have this idea that if there is a smartphone, we should to buy it, right? But there is a company that is working on this, Fairphone from the Netherlands. What this company does is basically give you the chance to upgrade just the parts that you want. They create a smartphone that is very easy to use, and you can change the camera, the top model, the display, the speaker, and also it comes with a little screwdriver, so you can change every part, and you don't need to buy another phone. Now, let's move to the strategy number 2, slowing loops. After we have created a very good product like this glass bottle, then we should ask how we reintegrate that glass bottle into the chain. Well, slowing loops helps with this by implementing the reuse, repair, remanufacture, upgrade, or share. And we avoid that this product become a waste. So we slow the chain here and reintegrate this product. But to be able to do this, we need network and sharing information. Companies alone, they can't just create factories and work all alone. They need partners. For example, this bottle is very efficient, but they need a machine to return the bottle. They need a factory to process this bottle, and they need processes to clean this bottle. So strategy number two, slowing loops, is basically create networks that enable any product to be reintegrated in the chain. And I want to show you this very good example of a company also from the Netherlands, is Reblan. Uh, right now in the textile industry, 85% of the textile became a waste. And Reblan is trying to help with this by creating textiles and textile products from waste. And they reintegrate this waste and create new products that can be recycled 100%. And this is possible because when materials are not mixed, they can be recycled much easier. Now we have the strategy number three, which is closing the loops. And this is basically related with transform waste into resources, give them value. Of course, many products, they lost functionality over the time, right? But we still have the option of recycling. So when a product cannot be used or reintegrate into the change, then we can recycle and we can recycle this product as a raw material or as an energy. And for sure, we all need to work together, not only companies. And circularity also works in policies and societies. We as a consumers need to put pressure on the government to create new laws. And those laws will put pressure on the companies to enforce, engage, encourage, and enable to create new products that are eco-friendly. And also as a consumers, we will have better choices. But this is also a circular system where all we need to participate. And I want to show you how a circular economy system looks. So we have here raw materials where everything starts, and we have a cycle with different business models, use, distribution, manufacturing, and there are many opportunities like reuse, remanufacture, refurbish. And one area that is very interesting and has a lot of popularity nowadays is the desmaterialization. This means basically create products uh, that you don't need a lot of materials. And I'm going to show you how. In this photo, we have one good example of Bill Gates in 1994 showing how much paper he saved with this CD. But also nowadays, we don't need this CD because we have apps where we can listen music. And this is reducing the amount of materials that we need. And this is something very good for circularity. Also, there is a model called share economy where you don't need to buy things. You can rent them like those bikes that you can find in any town. You just rent the trip and you don't need to buy a bike to have a ride. And with this, I want to thank you, gracias, for attending this presentation. I would like to recommend you if you want to implement circularity in your life, in your daily life, or if you have a business and you want to implement strategies about circularity, I recommend that you visit those sites, the Circular Design Guide and the Circulator. They have a lot of strategies and business models that you can implement and you can measure to implement circularity. And now, my friend Veda is going to talk about share economy. Thank you.
Well, hello everyone. Good evening. My name is Veda Prakash, and I am a student at TUM Technical University of Munich, an aspirant of Sustainable Resource Management. So I shall start without wasting any of the time of yours. So my topic for today is sharing economy. Now, sharing economy is the economy which we all have been practicing, seeing, and experiencing since our childhood. During our childhood, we shared our books, pencils, pens, etc. with our sisters, brothers, friends. Well, before we get into the mainstream, I would like to give you a small and general example by differentiating economy and sharing economy. So, you all know the story of Tom and Jerry. In that, you may know or may not know the third person in the video. His name is Bob. Now, watch the video carefully so that I would like to give you a very small definition as to what is economy and what is sharing economy. Now, I hope you all love the video. It keeps on repeating, no problem. So, in the video, while sharing the milk, Bob shares the milk unequally. You can figure it out with his eyesight. He had that cunning look while sharing, and he took the huge share of milk. Now, that is what we call economy. This is what we see in real world, where countries compete with other countries to become the largest and powerful economies, and also where these corporates compete with other corporates to be the richest corporates in the world. Now, think the other way around. Don't consider the cunning look of Bob. Just consider the size of Bob, how huge he is than Tom and Jerry. Here in the video, he shares the part of milk to Tom and Jerry, and he also takes his share of milk. Now, Bob took what he wanted and how much he wanted for his satisfaction and gave the rest to other two guys. So, this is sharing economy. Consuming the required product until you are satisfied and sharing it to others. Sharing it to others. It might be a needy person or a poor person or your friend. But what exactly does sharing economy means in technical terms? Today, I would like to give just a brief idea as to what is sharing economy and how it benefits for the sustainability factor. Now, so what for today? These are the contents of today's talks. What is economy and what are the basic ideas of different economies and some small information of sharing economy. Now, before we get into sharing economy, I would like to give a define. I would like to define economy in very general terms and also some technical terms. Economy is a social science that pertains to a specific area inside a country or a country as a whole, fulfilling the demand and supply, which is the core principle of economics. It is a system of making and trading things of value. Economy is related to a country, corporates, and businesses. Now, when it comes to economy, you may have noticed terms like sharing economy, peer economy, collaborative economy, and collaborative consumption being used synonymously. Many ask whether these terms have different meanings. Do their common core ideas explain the overlap? Well, I always say yes, because the objective of each economies are same, but they do explain the overlap. In case of collaborative economy, it is built on distributed networks of connected individuals and communities against centralized institutions, transforming how we can produce, consume, finance, and learn. For example, on Coursera, many millions of people are taking classes taught by faculty from the best universities around the world. This is creating open access to education that used to be just for the privileged few. Now, when it comes to P2P economy or person to person economy, person to person marketplaces facilitate the sharing and direct trade of assets that is built on mutual trust. For example, Etsy. It is an e-commerce website in America that matches producers or maker of goods directly with the buyers. Now, other thing is now coming to the sharing economy is the which is our main topic for today. Sharing economy is a model of economics defined as peer-to-peer based activity of acquiring, providing, or sharing access to goods and services that is often facilitated by a community-based online platform. Sharing economy includes multi-method approach to research, experiments, surveys, interviews, ethnography, and leads to research interests related to collaborative consumption, shared mobility services, circular economy, and sustainable consumption. It teaches us the fundamental marketing, consumer behavior, service marketing, advanced marketing, and leadership and strategy skills. In sharing economy, products or services are swapped, redistributed, shared, rented, or gifted. Consumers access to more resources, more convenience at lower cost. Here, an economic model will be based on sharing underutilized assets from spaces to skills and to stuff for monetary or non-monetary benefits. The best example would be Lyft, which is an on-demand ride-sharing platform that matches ordinary drivers to students, retirees, stay-at-home parents who can earn extra money by giving rides to people who need them. And the best example for Germany is BlaBlaCars. Now, we need to think how the sharing economy is configured, how it works. The main features of sharing economy business model is that business models only have access instead of ownership. Rather than buying an asset, the seeker rents it from someone else. Second, it is an online platform that brings the owner and seekers together and facilitate all processes between them. A business being a part of sharing economy does not possess any of the assets on offer. For example, Airbnb does not own a single room. BlaBlaCar's not even a single car. Here, we talk about the framework for sustainable model of sharing economy. The framework involves four participants that includes governments, enterprises, owners, and users. Governments identify the most pro-social sharing models and support service providers through both economic and non-economic incentives. Like for economic incentives, there will be low taxes and subsidies, and not for non-economic incentives, they will be in the form of communication campaigns and labeling. In following such an approach, both environmental and health benefits can be converted into economic incentives for enterprises. In addition, governments monitor emerging sharing models to mitigate against excessive provision of sharing services, which has happened in many fields as companies competed for market share. Enterprises estimate the environmental impacts of sharing activities from life cycle perspectives and provide sustainable information and options to consumers. Owners and users of shared products make sustainability a key factor in selecting sharing service providers. So, how is sharing economy helping the countries ecologically, environmentally, and economically? First, considering the ecological factor, environmental factor, and sustainable factor, we ask how green is sharing economy. Many green claims are anecdotal. For example, Airbnb. In several studies, many highlight how much energy, water, and greenhouse gases emissions people save by staying in Airbnb properties. Airbnb claims that in an year, it gets avoided greenhouse gases emissions that is comparable to 33,000 cars emitting greenhouse gases on North American roads and saved the equivalent of enough water that is enough to fill 270 Olympic-sized swimming pools. According to Transportation Sustainability Research Center, TSRC, USA, it is estimated that 20% of US population has stopped buying cars that eliminated the need for roughly 35,000 vehicles across North America and 200,000 cars across Europe. This led to CO2 emissions drop by 12%, which is almost equal to 21 metric tons. Now, coming to the economical factor. Sharing economy is one of the fastest growing business trends where investors dump more than $23 billion in venture capital funding since 2010 into startups operating with a share-based model. Because many of these businesses are private, it's impossible to know the actual size of sharing economy. However, I tried to find some clues to indicate the massive impact on our society. Airbnb and Uber have a combined market capital of $103 billion in USA as well as in Europe. McKinsey estimates that in US and Europe alone, 162 million people or 20 to 30% of workforce are providers on sharing platforms. Top sharing economy brands in the transportation space like Uber, Didi, Lyft form a market capital of $133 billion. Also, top sharing economy brands in the consumer goods space, eBay, Etsy, Rent the Runway form a market capital of nearly 40 to 45 billion dollars. So, why am I saying this? Some sharing services are already moving towards this concept of increasing demands for existing goods and services, where there is less need for consumers to own personal items. We see sharing economy services such as Netflix and Spotify move audiences away from owning anything. Netflix and other movie streaming services reduce the demand for physical copies of movies or television shows. In fact, Netflix is showing a massive drop in its DVD subscribers, but a large increase in streaming users. More users only using streaming services for online viewing purposes, and this will lead to a decrease in demand for physical DVDs. Again, it reduces the environmental stress caused from production. Overall, I must say it is difficult to determine the exact impact of sharing economy on our environment. Of course, sharing assets won't save the world from warming up, but if it reduces the waste or the need to own a car, that's a start. If it boosts consumption and personal income in a period of low growth, that can be encouraged too. So, here I would like to share the information as to what type of sharing business models that involves monetary transactions. In Malmo, a city of Sweden, people rent or lease clothes for free for the required number of days and return it back. This model is called Kledo Ticket. They do it as an activity and as a contribution to the society. In Gothenburg, there is another sharing model called Cycle Coquette Bike Kitchen. Anyone can come here and mend or revamp their bikes. If you're not experienced, you can ask somebody help. Another one is Tool Pool. This hardware store offers tools to borrow without any cost. In this way, the store attracts customers and also cuts out unnecessary consumption. Another one in Barcelona called co-working. As freelance working took off, so did the idea of sharing your space took off too. Co-working is a growing trend in Barcelona and cities all over the world. Here, people share all the facilities. They can also cooperate in arranged joint activities. Also, there is a digital platform called With Locals to invite strangers for dinner in their own home. Homes are being transformed into restaurants, and anyone using the platform can book a space. Sharing your own home is another aspect of sharing culture. Restaurants at home is a form of sharing that it in the form is a form of sharing that is legal in some countries but not in others. It comes down to taxation rules as well as different kinds of permits. In Spain, this phenomena is growing as more and more people invite strangers to their homes for dinners and concerts. Some of the sharing businesses platforms in Germany are food sharing, where people can save and distribute surplus food. Olio, another online sharing platform where you not only share the food but also other things too. Also, Letterai, a sharing platform for clothes and fashion garments where you can rent or share the clothes for money. Finally, talking about sharing economy in the field of agriculture, affordable finance is important for many farmers around the world. But if you are a smallholder who's living on under $1 a day, then purchasing a new equipment will be a difficult regardless of the interest rate on loans. Hello Tractor is a Nigerian startup that seizes on these opportunities. It provides small farmers with a simple app service through which they rent a tractor for limited time and thereby get access to mechanization. Hello Tractor is opening up the opportunity to receive mechanization even when you are below that level. This service can have huge consequences for the farmers as they step into mechanization, which is of great value for these smallholders. It has the ability to really increase and impact the yields for farmers and their revenue in so many ways. Like the ability to plant is 40 times faster with mechanization than manual labor. Also, their ability will increase up to 40% of their revenue stream. And it's really at the core an opportunity for them to reach their potential revenue by relying on agriculture to improve food security because Africa has the biggest arable land available today on the earth. So it is very crucial for smallholder farmers to be mechanized and to do it at a lower cost. Now, what are the advantages of sharing economy? The perceived advantages of sharing economy is that people will be accessible for services with better price and more convenient. Sharing economy contributes 23% in environmental protection and helps people socialize by being a part of community. The shared use of cars, music, accommodation, files, and more looks set to increase in Germany. Germany's share economy market is worth more than 20 billion euros. This study was based on representative survey of more than 4,500 consumers in Belgium, Netherlands, Austria, Switzerland, Turkey, and Germany as well. Of these countries, Germany had the largest share economy market. Predicted the trend would continue to grow in Germany with companies like Car2Go, Spotify, and Airbnb, that too profiting. So, what would happen if more and more people get engaged in sharing economy? The main concerns are that it will compete with established companies and destabilize the labor market and also might imply that tax revenues fall. At the same time, many people think this is a more sustainable form of consumption, which can also lead to closer knit communities. So, don't forget that sharing economy offers the opportunity to make money as well, whether it's an extra room, an underused vehicle, or those bridesmaid dresses in your closet. Sharing can be a smart way to turn your unused stuff into a very useful cash. So let's share things which becomes the new earnings. Thank you for bearing and not sleeping during my whole long talk. If there is any clarifications needed, the house will be open for discussions. Thank you once again.